I was entirely unaware that Ethan Vance's journey from a struggling, overworked employee to the president of a major publicly traded company was a path paved by my family's money and strategic maneuvers. We had quietly passed him one lucrative project after another, carefully cultivating his image of success, all at a significant cost to our own ventures. When people asked him why he wouldn't divorce me, his wife, who was so clearly from a different world, he would coolly state it was to prevent a negative impact on the company's stock price. Hearing that was the final straw. I slapped him squarely across the face and threw the signed divorce papers at him without a moment's hesitation. Not long after, my brother initiated a full-scale business assault against him. It took only a matter of weeks to completely demolish Ethan's carefully constructed reputation and send his empire crumbling into dust. In the end, he was kneeling at my feet, clutching my leg and sobbing, begging me for another chance. I genuinely wondered if he had completely lost his mind. One evening, my friend Chloe called. "Amelia," she said, her voice laced with an unusual tension. "I just saw Ethan at the Drunken Rose." I tried to sound casual as I replied, "Yes, he mentioned he had a business dinner there tonight." Chloe hesitated, her uncertainty palpable even over the phone. "Well, he wasn't by himself. I saw him with Sophia Ross. They looked incredibly close. He had his arm wrapped around her waist." Her words felt like a physical blow, a thunderclap in the silent room. "They're in suite 1808, she added softly. I made my way to the private suite, my heart a leaden weight in my chest. I stood silently outside the ornate door, listening to the muffled sounds of conversation from within. I instantly recognized his voice among the others. "President Vance is truly remarkable," someone was saying with false reverence. "Now that he has secured that parcel of land, he's undeniably one of the most powerful players in the capital." Another voice chimed in. "That's right. Just don't forget about us little guys when you're at the very top." A third man laughed. "Come, come, let us all raise a glass to President Vance." Amid the clinking of glasses and sycophantic laughter, Ethan replied, a self-satisfied chuckle in his voice. "I'm just an ordinary man, really. Thank you all for your unwavering support. Let's all work hard together for a brighter future." But he wasn't an ordinary man anymore. When I first laid eyes on him, he was just a desperate young man, crying his eyes out on a bench outside a hospital because he couldn't afford his mother's mounting medical bills. Now he was a celebrated star in the city's cutthroat business world. "Ethan, I'd like some shrimp," a sweet, feminine voice cooed from inside the room. "Just a moment, I'll peel them for you," Ethan replied gently, his tone saturated with an affection I hadn't heard from him in years. Inside the room, the sounds of celebration continued. "This must be your lovely wife," someone said, clearly trying to curry favor. "Let me offer a toast to her. I heard she stood by your side during your most difficult years. That kind of loyalty is a rare thing these days." The room abruptly fell silent. Someone had obviously made a terrible mistake. Realizing his blunder, the man quickly tried to backtrack. "My apologies. I spoke without thinking. Please don't take any offense, President Vance." Ethan just waved it off with casual indifference. There's nothing shameful about it. She was merely a placeholder. If it weren't for the potential damage to the company's stock price, I would have divorced her a long time ago. Then his voice softened as he turned his attention back to his companion. "The shrimp is ready. You should try the fish, too. It's delicious." Outside the door, I stood completely frozen. The oppressive heat of the summer night couldn't touch the profound chill that had enveloped me, a cold so deep it felt as if I had been plunged into a pit of ice. The story of Ethan and Sophia was a painful cliché. They were college sweethearts, the handsome man and the beautiful woman. Near the end of their senior year, Ethan had proposed to Sophia amidst the cheers and applause of their peers, but she had turned him down. "Ethan," she had said, her voice dripping with feigned sincerity, "my parents are getting older, and my younger siblings still rely on me for support. I can't be a burden to you." Her words, which seemed so sweet and selfless on the surface, had haunted Ethan for 4 long years. The reality, of course, was far less romantic. Sophia had simply chosen to be with a wealthy older man instead. I met Ethan for the first time on that bench outside the hospital. I was crying from the excruciating pain of an impacted wisdom tooth, and he was crying because he couldn't find a way to pay for his mother's medical treatments. "Stop crying," a voice said, and a packet of tissues was offered to me. I looked up and saw a pair of long, slender hands. His eyes were swollen and red from his own tears, but his voice was surprisingly gentle. "We have to keep looking forward." No one had ever spoken to me with such kindness before. "What happened to you?" I asked him softly. "My mom is seriously ill," Ethan answered, his voice thick with emotion. "The treatment here is just too expensive. I'm going to have to move her back to our hometown in a few days. I just can't afford this." He looked at me then. "And you? Why are you crying?" "I have a wisdom tooth coming in," I sniffled, "and I'm terrified of having it pulled." Ethan managed a small, sad smile. "I'll go with you," he said gently. Inside the examination room, I watched in horror as the dentist picked up a pair of large metal forceps. I immediately squeezed my eyes shut, trembling with fear and gripping Ethan's wrist as tightly as I could. By the time the procedure was finally over, I looked down and saw that his wrist was covered in deep, bloody scratches from where my nails had dug into his skin. "I'm so sorry," I said, my voice shaking. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just so scared." Ethan smiled as if it were nothing. "It's okay. I'm just glad I could be there for you." "You should get that bandaged," I said, my voice full of concern. Just then, a doctor from the inpatient unit came down the hall and approached us. "Ethan," the doctor said sternly, "your mother's hospital fees have been overdue for a while now. If the balance isn't paid in full by tonight, we'll have to stop her medication." Ethan's face stiffened with shame. He looked down and said softly, "Yes, doctor, I'll take care of it as soon as I can." Without another word, he turned and walked away. I watched him leave, then spun around and ran straight to the 32nd floor to the hospital director's office. "Brother," I said, as I burst through the door, "you need to waive the hospital bill for the patient in bed 14 on the 16th floor." It was Ethan's mother. "What is it this time, my little princess?" my brother asked, looking amused. I grinned and tilted my head. "I had my wisdom tooth pulled today." He laughed. "Very brave. You weren't scared this time?" "Ethan came with me," I said brightly. "Ethan?" My brother looked puzzled. "Who is that?" "He's the son of the woman in bed 14 on the 16th floor. He went with me to the dentist." "Waiving the medical bills can be his reward, right?" "I can do that," my brother said slowly. "But you are not allowed to fall for him." "What are you talking about?" I pouted. "I'm just grateful, that's all." I clung to his arm and refused to let go. "You better not turn into one of those hopeless romantics," he warned. "If you keep saying things like that, I'll go home and tell Dad," I shot back, sulking. All right, he said with a sigh. "I'll call the billing department now." "Wait," I added quickly, "you can't say it was me. Just say it's a support program from the hospital." Yes, I understand, my little boss," he replied with a helpless smile. "I was the cherished daughter of the Hawthorne Corporation's president. People often said my father practically owned half the city, and that was how I first met Ethan." Now, lying on the couch, I let myself sink into those memories. The first few years of our relationship were incredibly difficult. I secretly helped Ethan start his own business while simultaneously bearing the heavy weight of my family's disapproval. My parents and my older brother never accepted him. To them, Ethan was a classic social climber, a man from a humble background looking to marry into wealth. In the end, I had to threaten to take my own life just to be with him. I unconsciously touched the faint scar on my wrist as tears silently slipped down my cheeks. Ethan came home late that night, reeking of alcohol and the cloying scent of another woman's perfume. There was a faint, self-satisfied smile on his lips. It was clear the dinner party had gone well. He paused when he saw me sitting on the couch, my expression cold and silent. "You're still up?" he asked, sounding surprised. He then handed me a box. "A little gift for you." I looked up slowly. "What made you think of buying me a gift?" His smile faltered when I didn't reach for it. "I just saw the bag and thought it would look good on you," he said. It was a pink handbag. He said it suited me. Pink was the one color I absolutely detested. I owned nothing in that color. No dresses, no shoes, no accessories. Coincidentally, I had just seen a post from Sophia online. She had written, "Not into pink anymore. Dark colors are my new favorite." The photo showed two bags side by side, one pink, one brown. So that was it. He had brought me something another woman had cast aside. I took the bag from his hand, shoved it against his chest with all my strength, and then slapped him hard across the face. "Take your trash and get out," I screamed. Ethan stood frozen in place, his face pale with disbelief. "Amelia, what is wrong with you?" he finally snapped. Without a word, I opened the trending news page on my phone and held it up for him to see. "Congratulations," I said coldly. "You've made it to the top of the headlines, Mr. Vance." He frowned, clearly irritated. "It was nothing, just a bit of fun. I've been working myself to the bone every single day, and now you're making a scene over this?" "Working hard," I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You mean with Sophia?" His expression darkened, but he didn't deny it. "Amelia," he said sharply, "as long as you have food to eat and a roof over your head, that's all that should matter to you. Who I like is none of your business." "Ethan," I said quietly, struggling to hold back my tears, "I want a divorce." "A divorce? Over this?" he sneered. "You want to end our marriage over something so trivial? And what would you do without me? Do you think you could afford the house you live in? Or the car you drive if it weren't for me?" The raw contempt in his eyes pierced me deeper than any insult ever could. That was how he had always seen me. Just a housewife with no value, no power, no identity outside of his name. What he never realized was that his company, his business, everything he had built was only possible because of the quiet, unwavering support from my family operating behind the scenes. Without us, he would have never made it in this city. I pulled out the divorce papers I had prepared and placed them on the table in front of him. "Amelia Hawthorne!" he scoffed. "You had this ready so fast. Who are you seeing? Found yourself some pretty boy to run to?" His twisted sense of logic was as infuriating as ever. With a cold laugh, he tore the papers into shreds and let the pieces flutter to the floor. "Where would you even go without me, Amelia?" "This is my home," I said calmly. "I want you out." This house had been purchased just after his company went public. My father had helped him land that massive contract and had even pitched in financially. With the money from that deal, Ethan bought this place in my name. My father had warned me back then that Ethan wasn't cut out for business. He said, "The profit Ethan made from such a big contract was laughably small." I had thought my father was being too harsh at the time. Now I realized he had seen the truth long before I did. Just as Ethan moved toward me to argue again, his phone rang. "Ethan," a soft voice cried over the line. The power went out at my place. "It's so dark and I'm scared." "Don't worry, Sophia," he replied instantly. "I'm on my way." He stood up and walked out without a backward glance. She even had the audacity to call him while he was still in my home. That was a clear provocation, so I decided to respond in kind. The next day, I walked into Ethan's company with a fresh set of divorce papers in hand. When the receptionist saw me, she looked nervous and immediately tried to call Ethan. "Since when do I need an appointment to see my own husband?" I said with a raised brow. "Are you worried I might find out something I already know?" Without waiting for a reply, I stepped past her and made my way toward Ethan's office. Right outside his door, I saw Sophia. She was wearing an expensive designer gown and had a limited edition necklace around her neck. So, she was the new face of Vance Group's luxury real estate project. A nobody model, now endorsing the most high-end development of the decade. I had to hand it to Ethan. His taste was even worse than I thought. Since Sophia had returned from abroad, Ethan had thrown money and resources at her, turning her into the polished little showpiece she was now. She greeted me with a sugary, false smile. "Hello, Amelia. I'm Sophia. Ethan talks about you all the time." "Funny," I replied, my voice flat. "He's never once mentioned you to me. Now, if you don't mind, step aside. I have business with him." "Amelia," she said, trying to grab my arm, "let's not make things unpleasant." I jerked my arm away. There was a loud gasp, and I turned to see Sophia drop to her knees, clutching her ankle and crying out softly, "Ethan, it hurts." He rushed over and half carried her to her feet, then turned on me with pure rage in his eyes. "Amelia, how could you? That was too far. She only wanted to explain things to you, and you laid a hand on her." "She," I snapped back. "Why should I listen to anything she has to say?" "You're unbelievable," Ethan shouted, stepping forward and shoving me hard. I lost my balance and fell backward, hitting my head on the steps behind me. The world spun and everything went black. Just before I lost consciousness, I thought I saw the imposing shadow of my brother standing there. When I finally opened my eyes, I found myself lying in a sterile hospital bed. My mother was sitting beside me, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue while scolding my brother, her voice thick with tears. "Just look at what that Ethan did to Amelia. What kind of brother are you? We trusted you to look after her, and now look what has happened. And you didn't even tell us when she was in trouble." She took my side without a moment's hesitation, as always. I reached out and gently tugged at her sleeve. "Mom, don't blame him. This was my fault. I was being stubborn. It has nothing to do with my brother." I turned to him and gave a faint, apologetic smile. He reached over and stroked my hair softly. "It was my failure not to protect you better," he said quietly. "Ethan owes everything he has today to Amelia's support. And now that he has betrayed her, I will no longer go easy on him." Meanwhile, outside the room, Ethan was pacing nervously. He kept glancing through the glass window, a growing sense of unease creeping up on him with each step. My brother looked far too familiar. He looked just like the heir of the Hawthorne Corporation, but that couldn't be possible. Amelia had always told him she came from a modest background. Her parents lived in a remote rural area and couldn't even attend their wedding due to transportation issues. Trying to ease his anxiety, Ethan pulled out his phone and started searching for news related to the Hawthorne Corporation. He hoped to find a photo of the heir, anything to prove he was just imagining things. Just then, the hospital room door opened, and my brother walked out. "Hello, I'm Ethan," he said quickly, stepping forward to shake his hand. "Amelia's husband." My brother gave him a cold, piercing look and replied, "So you're the one who treated Amelia this way? And that piece of land outside the Capitol, does it not burn in your hands now?" Ethan froze, the blood draining from his face. His entire back went cold. Without another word or even a glance in his direction, my brother turned and walked away. Inside the room, my mother continued to fuss gently over me. "Amelia, you rest well. If anything happens, call your mother." "I will, Mom. Don't worry. I won't be reckless again." "And please take the bodyguards with you. I really don't need them here." "Fine, I'll take them. I'll come see you again tomorrow," she said, giving my hand a final pat before turning to leave. She walked right past Ethan without even acknowledging his presence. The door closed behind her with a firm click, snapping Ethan out of his daze. He quickly opened his phone again to check the news article he had just searched. At that exact moment, a breaking story popped up. The headline read, "Hawthorne Corporation's young heir returns from abroad." There, in the center of the photograph, was our family of 4, with me smiling with youthful grace, full of innocence and charm. Ethan stood frozen, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Amelia, you're the heiress of the Hawthorne Corporation? Why did you never tell me? Were you afraid I would chase after your family's money? Did you really think I would be that shallow? Didn't you trust me at all after everything I gave you?" I watched him rant at my bedside, his voice rising with a mixture of shock and indignation. My tone, however, remained calm and cold. "Ethan," I said, "do you think everyone is as shameless as you are? Back then, I was simply trying to spare your fragile ego." He stared at me, still unwilling to let go of his self-importance. "Amelia, you lied to me. How could you? And now you're just making excuses." Even now, he refused to reflect on his own actions. At that moment, the door opened again, and Sophia stepped in. She walked toward the bed and said sweetly, "Brother Yang, Amelia didn't mean it. He was just too worried about me." She placed a small bouquet of pink roses on the side table, acting as if nothing had happened. I narrowed my eyes and said sharply, You two really are a perfect match. Disgusting, selfish, and made for each other. Now get out. I don't want to see either of you again. Amelia, you're being too harsh, Ethan snapped, pulling Sophia protectively into his arms. She doesn't deserve to be treated like this. Sophia, let's go, he said firmly. Let her stay here and think about what she's done. What he still didn't understand, what he couldn't begin to grasp, was just how much he had already lost. I need your help cleaning up the house and putting it on the market as soon as possible, I told my friend Chloe over the phone. I don't care if the price is a bit low. Everything Ethan has now, I will take back every last bit of it. Later that day, my phone rang. It was Ethan, shouting in disbelief. Amelia, what did you do? Why did you sell the house? I replied calmly. Ethan, get it straight. That house is mine. The title is in my name. He snapped back. That's my money. If it weren't for me, would that house even be under your name? I laughed coldly. Is this a joke to you? Do you even understand how the company went public? Do you even realize where your so-called success came from? I hung up before he could continue. Outside, Ethan was pacing furiously. Sophia stood beside him, fanning the flames. Amelia is too cruel, Sophia said with a pout. After everything you two had, she just walks away like it meant nothing. I bet she already has someone else. Ethan gritted his teeth. It's just one house. Let's go, Sophia. I have other properties. And with that, they left. Meanwhile, my brother re-entered the bidding process for a piece of suburban land just outside the capital. Naturally, our families secured it. As a long-standing and reputable family in the business, we had the vision and the financial strength to develop the landmark community for the next 30 years. At Ethan's company, he was in a frenzy. He had invested heavily in that same plot of land, but we beat him to it. The loss caused a serious hit to his company's finances. Rumblings of dissatisfaction started to spread among the board members. One evening, Ethan cornered me as I was leaving work. Amelia, listen, he pleaded. Sophia meant nothing. It was just a fling. I was always sincere with you. We built everything together. You know me better than anyone. I stopped and stared at him coldly. Ethan, you are truly despicable. Do you not remember how you elevated Sophia to her position? Get out of my way. The divorce agreement was delivered to your office yesterday. Sign it, or I will file for divorce through the courts. Amelia, do you really feel nothing for me anymore? He begged. You watch the company grow step by step. Since we lost that land, the stock price has tanked. Come back, I'll treat you well. Ethan reached out to grab my arm. I stepped back quickly and threw the entire cup of hot coffee in my hand onto his expensive suit. Have you completely lost your mind? I said, then turned and walked away without looking back. From behind the bushes, Sophia emerged. Ethan, she said softly. Sophia, Ethan said smoothly. I only said that to win her over. You know how strong the Hawthorne family is. Don't be upset. You're the one I truly love. I had forgotten an important contract and turned back to get it, just in time to hear what Ethan said. A perfect pair, the liar and the mistress. May they live happily ever after. The next day, I arrived at Ethan's company with my legal team to finalize the divorce. The agreement clearly stated that Ethan was at fault. All fixed assets would go to me. I would also hold 45% of the company's shares and 80% of the liquid capital. You must be dreaming, Ethan shouted. Why am I being called the guilty party? One of the lawyers stepped forward. Mr. Vance, your affair with Miss Ross has been reported by multiple media outlets. We also have substantial evidence proving that the growth of Vance Corporation was heavily supported by Hawthorne Enterprises. That's all nonsense, Ethan screamed. The media makes things up all the time. Sophia and I are innocent. You can't just take my company based on rumors. The lawyer replied coldly. If you continue to be uncooperative, we will pursue this through legal channels. Fine, Ethan barked. Do it. You think I'm afraid of lawyers? Very well, Mr. Vance. We will see you in court. As I turned to leave, he called after me, his voice full of rage. Amelia, you will regret this. But it is you, Ethan, who will live with regret, not me. That evening, I met up with my best friend Chloe at a bar, determined to drown my sorrows. One glass of whiskey after another, I kept drinking without pause. Amelia, you should slow down, Chloe said gently, sitting beside me and watching with concern. I leaned against her, slurring slightly. Chloe, please, whatever you do, don't become a fool for love like I did. Never marry a man who looks good on the outside but has nothing to offer inside. You must listen to your mother, all right? With each word, I downed another drink, patting Chloe's shoulder like I was offering her the wisdom of a lifetime. Somewhere between my tears and my tipsy rambling, I thought I saw Leo in my drunken haze. I stumbled forward and collapsed against his chest, pounding him with my fists like a heartbroken child. Through slurred speech, I mumbled, Auntie said you went to America. Then why didn't you call? Did you just forget about me the minute you saw someone prettier? Leo Sterling gently helped me sit down on the couch. He looked at me with that familiar warmth and teased, You heartless girl who was the one that really forgot who? Seeing me in safe hands, Chloe smiled and said, I'll leave her with you, Leo. Leo nodded. All right, I've got her. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in my own bed at home. Mom? I called out groggily. Last night, I think I saw Leo. You think? My mother snapped, walking into the room with her arms crossed. That boy carried you all the way home last night, you little rascal. What? It really was Leo? I sat up in surprise. He's been abroad for years, hasn't he? Almost 10, she replied, shaking her head like she couldn't believe how slow I was. Before I could say another word, she had already turned and walked out of the room. I flopped back onto the bed with a loud sigh, grumbling about how unpredictable women could be, my own mother included. Just then, my phone rang. It was Ethan. Amelia, he said smoothly, I'm willing to give you another chance. Come back to me. I'll forget everything that happened between us. I rolled my eyes. Ethan, how did I never realize just how delusional you are? Now it's my turn to say, I'm not forgiving anything. Don't regret this, Amelia, he warned. Ethan, I said coldly, if your brain isn't working, go see a doctor. And if that doesn't help, maybe just get cremated and stop wasting air. I was still feeling pretty satisfied with myself when I heard the beep signaling that the call had ended. He had hung up on me without another word. A few minutes later, I understood what he had meant. Photos of a man supporting me as I staggered out of the bar went viral. Across every social media platform, the headlines were brutal. This woman is shameless, married and still out drinking with men. Isn't she the wife of Vance Group's CEO? Total mismatch. Vance is the flower. She's the fertilizer. Looks like this isn't the first time she's done this. Only pros can drink like that. She must be very experienced. Wait a minute, didn't someone catch Ethan kissing a model on the street a few days ago? That model is his childhood sweetheart. Amelia is the one who broke them up. Did you hear? Amelia is the heiress of the Hawthorne Corporation. She was the one who forced Sophia to leave. I couldn't believe the wild stories people were spinning. The internet's imagination knew no limits. When I met Ethan, Sophia had already moved abroad. She was living with some wealthy older man and was now pretending to be a delicate little flower online. They thought I would just sit back and take this. They must have forgotten what a real tiger looks like. Chloe, I said, turning to my friend who was with me, do me a favor, pull the security footage from last night at the bar. Since the bar belonged to Chloe's family, getting the footage would be the easiest part of all this. The video clearly showed Leo helping me out of the bar and handing me over to my brother, who was waiting by the roadside. I uploaded the clip online, and public opinion shifted almost instantly. Comments flooded in, siding with me one after another. That's President Hawthorne himself, her real brother. What kind of trash man would spread lies like that? Who is the guy helping her out of the bar? He is seriously handsome. The internet exploded with discussion, and unexpectedly, Leo gained quite a bit of popularity from it all. Sitting in the garden under the sun, I couldn't help but smile to myself. Meanwhile, the Hawthorne Group conducted a full investigation and discovered that it was Ethan who had deliberately spread the rumors. He had hired an army of fake accounts to slander my name online. We took the matter to court, and Ethan lost the case. He was ordered to pay a large sum in damages and was forced to hand over 10% of his company's shares to me. Now, I held 55% ownership of the company. In order to regain control, Ethan would have to buy back every single share with his own money. As for me, I became a content, wealthy, and happily single woman. Since the divorce, I have had far more time for myself. I no longer have to manage his business connections, entertain the wives of his clients, or play hostess at endless social events. I don't have to remember who was opening a boutique or who had been admitted or discharged from the hospital. Now, I eat, shop, and sip tea simply because I want to, not to please anyone else. My friend Chloe often tells me that I look radiant. Later, I heard from her that Sophia had completely ruined a major business deal for Ethan. The potential partner was a powerful female entrepreneur, and they had arranged to meet at a spa resort. While they were changing clothes, Sophia said to the woman, "With a figure like yours, I bet your husband isn't very interested anymore." That one sentence was enough to send the woman storming out. Not long after, her social media accounts lit up with a flood of selfies showing off her wonderful spa experience. Ethan, furious beyond reason, slapped Sophia right across the face in the hotel lobby. After that, he immediately tried calling the woman to salvage the deal, but she refused to take his calls. Now, Ethan's company is barely staying afloat. After finally securing a rare big contract, Sophia managed to destroy it with a single careless remark. Ethan always believed that the company's success was entirely his doing, but he had overestimated himself. He forgot about the support from my parents, and he took for granted everything I had done behind the scenes to help him. He thought building relationships was as easy as sharing a meal or chatting over coffee. But Sophia's foolishness was truly something else. It left even the most generous observers speechless. I rocked gently in my chair, feeling like this little drama still needed a few more twists. So I made a quick call to one of our media outlets. "Release the video of Ethan and Sophia," I instructed casually. That video sparked another wave of online fury. Infidelity, betrayal, knowingly being the third party, it was all there. The Vance Group's reputation plummeted overnight. Their stock was delisted, and the company sank to the bottom of the market. To make matters worse, they now owed the bank a mountain of debt. As I sipped my coffee in the sunshine, feeling completely at peace, Ethan came rushing in, looking like he had been dragged through a storm. "Amelia, please forgive me," he cried, collapsing at my feet and grabbing hold of my legs. "I can't live without you. I love you truly." Tears streamed down his face as he sobbed. "Sophia is gone." I made her leave. "She will never bother us again. Without her, we could be so happy." Ethan was the most shameless man I had ever known. He pushed all the blame onto Sophia, as if she had single-handedly caused all the damage. "Ethan," I said coldly, "we are divorced. We are strangers now. There is no going back." I turned away, not wanting to waste another word on someone so pathetic. Suddenly, I heard him shout, "Amelia, if I'm going down, I'm dragging you with me." I turned and saw Ethan charging at me, a fruit knife clutched in his hand. Just before he reached me, a strong arm blocked his attack. Bright red blood splashed across my face. I turned and saw that it was Leo. His brows were slightly furrowed, and his voice was full of concern as he asked, "Are you all right?" The security guards had arrived and were already holding Ethan back. "Let's go to the hospital," I whispered, clutching Leo's arm. Blood was trickling between my fingers, and I could feel the color draining from my face. Leo looked down at me and said gently, "Amelia, it's okay. It's just a cut." As the doctor wrapped Leo's injured arm, a memory from childhood suddenly came rushing back. There had been a time, many years ago, when Leo had shielded me from a falling flower pot. It hit his back instead of mine, leaving a deep scar that never quite faded. Tears welled up in my eyes and spilled down my cheeks. Leo reached out and pulled me into a gentle embrace, patting my back softly. "I'm sorry, Amelia," he whispered. "I should have protected you better. I should have kept you from all this pain." Hearing his voice, I cried even harder. It was in that moment that I finally understood what my mother had meant when she called me foolish. She had said Leo got hurt because he had tried to protect me, and that was why I had to look after him, stay by his side until he fully recovered. That was how she had sent me to live at Leo's villa. "Amelia, I want some fruit," Leo said one afternoon, lounging comfortably on the sofa. I handed him a plate of freshly sliced apples. "But I'm injured," Leo said, with a dramatic pout, raising his bandaged right hand. "And what about your left hand?" I asked, amused. He lifted a folder with his left hand, showing me the business plans he had been working on. With a sigh, I gave in and brought the apple slices to his mouth. He smiled as he took a bite. "Amelia, your apples taste better than any I've had before." In these quiet, ordinary moments, memories of our past began to return. We had grown up together. Our families were old friends. We were childhood sweethearts, always side by side. Our parents used to joke about arranging a marriage for us when we were just kids. Then, Leo went abroad for years to continue his studies, and somewhere along the way, I met Ethan. "Watch my shot," Leo called suddenly. He had noticed I was lost in thought and wanted to lift my mood. He reached out to toss the apple core into the trash, but used a little too much force and ended up tumbling into me. "Amelia," he said softly, looking into my eyes. I wanted to push him away, but I was afraid of hurting his injured arm. He buried his face in my shoulder, and I could feel the warmth of his tears soaking through my shirt. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just listened. "Amelia," he said, his voice trembling. "Do you know what these years have been like for me? I missed you like I was losing my mind. I was afraid to come back, afraid to hear anything about you. I was terrified you were happy without me, but even more terrified that you were not. I hated myself for leaving in the first place." Tears blurred my vision again. "Amelia, I'm so grateful that life gave me another chance. Will you give me one too?" I nodded slowly. Not long after, I was sitting in the garden, gently rubbing my growing belly, when Chloe leaned in, whispering the latest gossip into my ear. "Amelia," she said, barely hiding her excitement. "Have you heard? Ethan Vance's company collapsed. He's buried in debt. And Sophia, she tried playing the mistress again, but this time the wife caught her in public and beat her up right there on the street." I gave a small smile and shook my head. What did their mess have to do with me anymore? I had a husband who truly cared for me. I had a baby on the way. I didn't want any of that ugliness to touch my life again. Side story, Leo. There was a sweet little girl next door, soft-spoken and adorable. One day, my father and my uncle sat me down and told me they were arranging a childhood engagement between us. I kept a straight face, trying to look indifferent, but inside, I was secretly thrilled. Having such a cute girl as my future wife? That didn't sound so bad at all. I really liked her. Whenever I had good food or treats, I always thought of her first. I loved taking her out to play, holding her tiny hand in mine as we wandered through the neighborhood. One afternoon, I took her for a walk outside. We passed under an apartment building when loud arguing broke out from one of the upstairs windows. I instinctively looked up, curious about the commotion. In the next instant, a flower pot came crashing down from above. There was no time to think. I pulled Amelia into my arms and shielded her with my body. The pot hit me square on the back. It hurt so badly that I couldn't get up. I saw Amelia's tear-streaked face as she clutched my shirt, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm fine, Amelia," I said through clenched teeth, trying to sound brave. "It doesn't hurt at all." When my father rushed me to the hospital, I noticed my mother's eyes were red and swollen from crying. I started to realize something was seriously wrong. I couldn't feel anything in my lower back. During the days that followed, I was in and out of feverish daydreams. I remember the feeling of small hands pressing gently against my forehead. I wanted so badly to open my eyes and see who it was, but my eyelids felt impossibly heavy. Eventually, my parents made the decision to send me to the United States for treatment. I asked them not to tell Amelia the truth, to just let her think I went abroad for school. I didn't want her to worry or be sad. I spent an entire year lying in that hospital bed before any sensation returned to my back. What followed was a long and painful road to recovery. I pushed myself to stand, to walk again. I told myself every day, I need to get better. I need to go back and see Amelia. Then one day, I heard the news that Amelia had fallen in love. She had gotten married. My heart sank. For a while, I thought maybe I should give up. But then, Amelia's older brother told me something. He said the man she married was not reliable. That was all I needed to hear. I pulled myself together. If that man dared to hurt Amelia, I would not hesitate to take him down. So I stayed abroad, healing and studying at the same time, and then I heard it. The man had cheated on her. I couldn't sit still any longer. I packed my things and flew home immediately. The first time I saw Amelia again was at a bar. She looked composed, but I could see the pain behind her eyes. Amelia was always strong. I realized in that moment that life had given me another chance to be by her side. And this time, I was not going to waste it.